an inheritance as a priest. They were the smallest tribe. Okay? But they started making an agreement because they were smaller with Esau, and they made an agreement with Satan dealing with all these different gods, and became judges to try to destroy Christ and Christ's people. We want to prove that. Read Judges 18:1.
In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in.
So when the northern kingdom was destroyed, Dan seen an opportunity to come to the forefront. Read.
For unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Israel.
So Dan was not supposed to have a priestly inheritance. Go ahead.
And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coasts, men of valor from Zerah and from Ishtar, to spy out the land and to search it. And they said unto them, Go search the land. Who, when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they lodged there.
So they spied out the land to set up their own powers. Go down to the 27th verse, talking about the tribe of Dan. What happened to Dan? Read.
And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priests which he had, and came unto Lash, unto a people that were a quiet and secure, and they smote them with the edge of the sword, and burnt the city with fire.
Go ahead.
And there was no deliverer, because it was from Zidon, and they had no business with any man. And it was in the valley that lieth by Beth-rehob, and they built a city and dwelt therein. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laash at the first. And the children of Dan set up the graven image.
They set up what?
The graven image.
They started setting up graven images to Satan. Read.
And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan.
You see that? And they became priests. They started setting up their own priesthood. Read.
Unto the day of the captivity of the land. And they set them up, Micah's graven image, which he had made, all the time the house of God was in Shiloh.
You see that? So Dan made themselves priests. So when Christ came on the scene, the Sanhedrin was already set, and the Harads were already set. Who were the Harads? Dan. Dan linked with Esau and became a priestly people over the tribes of Israel. That's why it says in Genesis 49, go back to Genesis 49 again. Genesis 49, 16 and 17.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel.
As one of the tribes of Israel. So he set himself up as a judge. So the Lord cut him off as a people. He set himself up as a priest dealing with Satan. Read.
Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path.
He was a serpent by the way, because Satan got up in him as a Harad to try to kill Christ, when Christ's star was seen in the east. Go ahead.
That biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward.
And they did that. Dan was set up to try to make Israel go back. So Dan made an agreement with Esau and Satan to go against his own people, to judge God's people with money. And we're going to go into that teaching, a whole teaching on Dan itself. And that's why Dan is not numbered with the 12 tribes in Revelation, the 7th chapter. Because they mixed their seed with Esau, and they started going after the gods of the other nations and set themselves up as priests. Now, let's go to Genesis 49 and 19, going into the tribe of Gad. Go ahead. Genesis 49 and 19.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
A troop shall overcome Gad, but he shall overcome at the last. What troop overtook Gad? The U.S. cavalry under Custer. When Esau came over here, the troop that overtook Gad, the North American Indians, you can see the slaughters here. The troop that overtook Gad was a U.S. cavalry. Gad is a North American Indian. Here's a picture showing them moving and migrating because of the conquest of the Western world. They had to move because the settlers came over here from Europe and was putting smallpox in the blankets, killing the buffalo, spreading diseases amongst the people, and killing the people with biological warfare. Over here, you show the same troop with mass graves, pushing the North American Indians in mass graves and burying them, and taking a picture to commemorate this destruction. You see, we know a lot of you don't want to see this, but this is how America have come to be the great country it is today. It was